President Biden is gearing up for tonight's State of the Union address. It is the first time the president will face a divided Congress, literally face them, since Republicans took control of the House last month. We've got both the executive and legislative branches covered this morning with NBC News White House correspondent Carol Lee and congressional correspondent Julie Tsirkin. Carol, let's start with you. President Biden expected to tout some of his biggest accomplishments from over the last year, but a new Washington Post poll found 62% of Americans believe he has not done much well in office. So, I mean, why is there this disconnect with voters, and what does he plan to highlight tonight, hoping to try and break through that?
Well, it's a great question because this is a huge challenge for the president, Joe. And one of the things that we're going to see him try to do tonight, according to White House officials, is to go through the highlights reel of his presidency so far. So he's going to talk about all of the things that he has signed into law, with an emphasis on some of those laws that got bipartisan support. So, for instance, the infrastructure law and a CHIPS Act that's designed to manufacture semiconductors here in the United States. And so what the president's going to do is try to make this case that he's been doing a lot of things because, as you noted, Americans aren't feeling this in terms of the economic benefits, and they don't really know what he's done. And so this is an opportunity, the largest audience the president's going to get all year, and he will lay out what he's done so far. At the same time, he's going to also call for some new policies. Among those include expanding this insulin cap that Democrats passed that benefits Medicaid recipients. They want that to expand more broadly, voting rights, other issues that they would like to address. However, those are things that Democrats couldn't do on their own when they had control of both houses of Congress. So now all of that is just a little bit harder. So the president will try to make headway on things that he's already done in terms of Americans understanding them and feeling the benefits from them, and at the same time call for some new policies.
So, Julie, I mean, we know foreign policy is going to be featured tonight. Ukraine was a major topic in last year's address. How much do you think we're going to hear about Ukraine tonight as we prepare to mark 1 year since the start of the war? And also, is the president going to address the growing issue over this suspected Chinese spy balloon?
Yeah, Joe. Well, look, to Carol's point, the issue of China and Ukraine are perhaps the two issues that the president could get done in Congress in these next 2 years with the divided government, because support for Ukraine was really strong, of course, during the last State of the Union, just days after Russia invaded Ukraine. And the First Lady today also bringing the Ukrainian ambassador to the U.S. as one of her guests tonight. So this really sets the stage for what President Biden is going to emphasize. And after the U.S., including Congress, passing over $100 billion since the start of the war to Ukraine, the many critics think and hope and expect that the president will make this a focus and revive support for the war-torn country as we hit that 1 year mark, especially as support dwindles among Republicans in Congress, and of course China in light of this Chinese balloon after the weekend. The president tweaking some remarks ahead of tonight. This is one of the areas of bipartisan cooperation as well. We saw a China committee launched in the House, and lawmakers are expected to get briefed on this situation in the coming days.
And Julie, another major issue looming over the Biden administration is the debt ceiling and the president's relationship with the House Speaker, McCarthy. The president's going to be standing before this newly empowered GOP-controlled House. I mean, quickly here, how does that dynamic influence the president's speech tonight?
Yes, standing before the new Republican majority with the Speaker, McCarthy, sitting over his shoulder. And McCarthy gave a 10-minute speech last night, a rare scripted speech on the debt ceiling. This comes just days after he met with the president in the Oval Office, really urging spending negotiations, spending cuts for a debt ceiling raise. And it is all his hope and Republicans' hope that the president will take his time today to say that that is possible. But as we've learned in the lead up to this from our White House colleagues, including Carol, the president is going to, of course, stick to their position of no negotiations over the debt ceiling. And this is something Republicans are hoping that he will bring bipartisan cooperation on.
All right, Julie Tsirkin and Carol Lee with the preview of the State of the Union. Thank you both.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.